Thank you to Mr. Bernard and also Mr. Lion for the great presentation. So now there will be a few guidelines on Q&A. So I will take a few questions, one, two, and then you can address to which panelist you want your question to be answered. And there is also papers that is being circulated. If you don't want or you don't want to ask to that microphone, you can write, yeah. Ada apa? Kalau mau tanya, tidak berani mau tanya, boleh tulis di kertas dan boleh pas sama saya, Cynthia ataupun Sue, ya, ataupun Win. Okay. And I want to remind all the audience that please focus on our subject matter today, so that we can have a deep analysis on what is development, why development, and also have a discussion lah yang sangat konkret. Okay. So now I will, because I've been told that the UMS students will have to leave by 3 kan? Masih ada. So maybe I will give the opportunity first to the students to ask questions. Ya, kamu mau tanya soalan kepada kita panelis mengenai kita punya forum hari ini. Jadi saya akan bagi itu floor sama kamu dulu, ya.
Perhatian saya, kami merupakan pelajar yang mengambil Social Impact Assessment (SIA). Okey, dalam saya punya soalan dalam membuat perancangan pembangunan Eko Tanjung Aru ni, adakah SIA juga diambil kira dalam membangunkan plan tersebut? Adakah diambil kira ataupun hanya setakat EIA sahaja digunakan? Dan apakah social impact yang telah diambil kira tersebut? Sebab dalam kami ni, kami kena buat report juga mengenai SIA tentang Tanjung Aru juga. Okay, I hope you can help us. Okay, thank you sir. That's it.
Maybe take another question. Yeah?
I believe we have done both social, economic, and the EIA studies. We have looked at the impact, obviously, on the social part very significantly. There are always many ways to look at it, and I think what we have done is something that is as practical a solution as we believe it can be. But yes, it has been looked into in terms of the social impact. Not just the EIA impact, but we also looked at the economical impact as well.
Thank you, Mr. Lano. Is there any next question? Yes.
Okay. Joshua Kong, Chartered Accountant, Social Activist. Just now, Mutu mentioned that the developer is always given big coverage in the direct express or newspaper, when the NGO concerned only given small space. For my experience, after so many publications in Direct Express and Borneo Post, I wrote letters to them, but my letters were not published. But one day, I met the important officer from the newspaper. He told me simply, when the project started by TADD, Sindrabat, nobody can stop them doing what they like. Then how we have a big problem. This is Malaysian culture. Okay, another issue, I also submit to Environmental Protection Department a letter about this EIA by DHI. The very important issue about the airport, they didn't consult the Malaysian airport Berhad. So why they didn't consult the airport? Maybe it's a hidden agenda again, especially Lana Chua Lao say nobody want to buy the land because of the airport. So maybe they got intention to move out the airport from there.
Yeah, keep your question short, Mr. Joshua.
Okay, my question is, as you know, we have floods here. If you raise up 39 meter, it become a valley. The airport become a valley. With the Kapayan reach the mountain, the hill, so it become flooded. So you're going to destroy the airport. You don't make a project to destroy a valuable project like the airport. Can you understand that it's an economic factor? Everybody suffer. The whole town in Tanjung will be flooded. Can you guarantee if there's a flood, that Sindrapat pay off all the billions? It's worth 27 billion, that project. Thank you very much. For the time being, I got many more questions.
Please keep your questions short and directed to the panelists, yeah?
Sorry? Joshua, sorry. Okay. The company can't guarantee you anything, number one, but you can. Because the company is state-owned and you control the state. Every single one of you. It is a simple answer as that. The company does not belong to any individual. The company belongs to the state government, which is elected by you. So you decide on whether the company will fulfill its obligations as stated.
You can also pass the question to Right Gil.
I'd like to ask, just now the questions about the sand, can you answer each and every one of them? How much is needed from where? And also, in your presentation, you showed the different colors of sand just now, right? I don't understand the significance. And yeah, that's all for now. Thank you.
Okay, I can and it will be needed. If you need that answer, our DHI consultants are here. They may be able to give you that exact answer a little bit later. We can give you that answer. In terms of the color of the sand, it shows obviously the condition of the sand. And certain parts of the beach is obviously more polluted and dirtier than other parts. It's just to show you the different levels of the sand condition. I do not actually. I do not. But I will definitely get back to you with that answer if we have it. If we do not have it, we will definitely get it and let you know.
Okay. Oh yeah, one more.
Could I request the consultant?
They claim beautiful, shiny sand from Palembang Island. That was their selling point. Whether they have changed their mind, I don't know. I will leave it to the consultant.
Thank you very much. I'll try to be as objective and straight to the technical parts. That's my job as I see it here. There's a lot of emotions flying around, and I'll, as it's been a question, try to be very technical and objective. In terms of let me just go back and clarify a little bit. There's a lot of confusion around the sand and sand replenishment and maintenance. Yeah, actually, if someone else has some water, I might go. Otherwise I'm going to last long. That cost that's set up for maintenance is not really addressing much of the sand. I mean, we have designed the beach, and a lot of studies have gone into designing the beach so it's as stable as possible. So that's the whole layout of the beach, and all the stuff has gone into us to design that so that it will be stable in its own right. So it's mainly a capital direction and a capital sand nourishment scheme that's going in there. Balambangan is very much up and very emotional. That was mentioned not by the consultant but by the developer at some stage, that that's the type of sand we are aiming at, and would this be a potential source. So it's something we're then looking at as a potential source. So we don't only look at whether it's white sand or what it is, we also have to look at the grain size, because it is stable on the beach, and most likely, in fact, Balambangan is not. Oh, thank you very much. But the bulk of the sand from the reclamation is planned to come from offshore. We don't know the exact site at the moment. It's subject to a separate EIA. So there are sand source studies, where are the resources, but most likely where we're looking at is offshore, so out by the Sunken Barrier shoals. And of course, again, there are also sensitivities there, so there are coals in that area, and that will be subject to a separate EIA to make sure that we don't spoil one area to try to import it to a different site. And one of the other options we're looking at, instead of taking sand from Balambangan, is maybe trying to take it offshore. Can we get, because a lot of it is just for the reclamation, it will sit down into the reclamation and not be at the surface. So the quality of the sand is not important. But can we sieve that sand and maybe get a proportion of that that's suitable for the surface sand? So that's one option that we're looking at, instead of Balambangan, for instance. But yeah, to cut it short, at the moment we don't know exactly where it's going to come from. Those sand source studies are partly ongoing, partly being planned, and they will be subject to a separate EIA once we have a suitable source.
Yeah, yes.
Hello?
Okay, good. Hi, my name is Bob Hartley. I live here in KK. I'd like to ask all of the panel, and in particular the technical guys, what mitigation is being made to prevent the sand that's being dredged and deposited here from interfering with the coral reefs. I'm an active diver and photographer and very concerned about the coral. If coral has layers of silt and sediment deposited on it, it will kill the coral. We've seen something similar on the Great Barrier Reef recently when dredging titles were released and 22 kilometres of coral reef was killed. Could I ask anyone who knows on the panel what mitigation you are imposing to protect the coral reef?
Again, that is at the moment just another clarification. You know, the EIA studies are of course ongoing, so it's not something they're completed. At the moment, it's still at the TOR phase, and I think there's a little bit of confusion there. After the TOR, we need to set up the right studies to actually address these things. But what we are planning, and we've done, of course, as part of the design studies, we've done quite a lot of modeling already in terms of what are the potential impacts. So we know something already, and that will be further studies carried out as part of the EIA. One thing with Tanjung is that the tidal currents are negligible, so they are a few centimeters per second. So the plumes that will come from the reclamation site do not go very far. So that's a good point in how far do they actually cause the impacts. The other thing is, you know, we need to find pretty good quality sand, at least for the top part. As I said before, the bottom main part down by the airport, not as important. And then when you pump it in, the main mitigation, as we see it, is to have a lot of siltation basins. So you come in with a dredger from far afield, you pump it in for a pipeline into the reclamation site, and then you have siltation basins. So a series of siltation basins where you get the fines to settle out before you actually release the excess water. So that's the main way of mitigating. And then the other thing that we have reading into going forward and start to discuss already with TIAD is to have a very strong EMP, so environmental monitoring management plan, during implementation. But that's something we do extensively. For instance, in Singapore, we just done one big project in Western Australia for Chevron, where we actually try to control the discharge of the plume rather than trying to, you know, control it once again into the water column. Because then
were you successful?
We've been quite successful the way we see it, yes. So in Singapore, we've been able to, because as you say, they do reclaim a lot there, they do dredge a lot, and we can go quite close to coral reef if it's done at the right time and the right way. So we can, for instance, work with the currents. As I said, with Tanjung, the currents are not very strong, but still work with the current. So you do your works at the right time, so that you actually direct plumes away from your sensitive receptors. That's the key. That's the key part of the Perth project we did as well.
I'm not sure if this is within your remit as a technical advisor, but from a construction perspective, do we know if silk curtains will be deployed? Excuse me. Whether they'll deploy silk curtains to prevent sediment depositing in the coral?
That is one way we can look at it. I have to say, silk curtains is always something that comes up as the first option as a mitigation measure. and it can work under the right conditions. Under a lot of conditions, it doesn't work, and it can actually have a direct bad effect as well. Because if there's a little bit of current, too much current, silk curtains become inefficient and will tend to actually sometimes to get scouring under the silk curtains, actually more scouring than we prevent the flume. But that's certainly one of them, and at Tanjung potentially, because the currents are relatively low, but it also depends on the day climate. But as I see it more, silk curtains, again, that's trying to control the flume once it gets into the water column. We would much rather prevent the flume from getting into the water column in the first place. So that's desiltation basins, and silk screens can be part of that process also.
Okay, and my last point is we've seen quite a lot of reporting in the newspapers, designs, ideas, a lot of publication, invitation for investors. Do you not, as a panel, collectively think that the environmental impact of this project should take priority over the design and the investment and the pushing forward with it if we don't thoroughly know whether or not this is going to destroy our environment?
I'll just from my perspective first. So when we came on board, we were basically tasked by designing a world-class beach. And there was a basic design when we came on board, almost 2 years ago now, I guess, the first time. A year and a half. My memory is going fast these days. There was a very clear scope for us that type of design a world-class beach. There was a basic design, and we changed it quite a lot. So, for instance, we pushed the beach forward quite a bit. Some people complain about the reclamation. That's actually part of our design to actually get a better beach. Because part of the problem with the existing beach is that it's not exposed enough for rain, so it doesn't keep itself clean. So we want to push it forward. We also get a little bit steeper profile, which may sound counterintuitive to someone that's actually more stable, because you can get waves and that can actually build up the beach, not only waves and that can erode the beach. So in our scope, has not been to look at the economic buy-off or sustainability, but simply design a world-class beach and look at the environmental considerations around that also. Of course, there are a lot of other people who sit and look at the economic perspective, but that has not been the driver of the current design. I would say that that's really been from us to design the beach and the waterways so that the water quality also works. If there's instance, I do have a little bit of supporting presentation later that I can show in some of the aspects that went into design, but if time allows, I'm happy to give that as well.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Here are two questions. All development have EIA and lots of science, but what we see today is this have failed and major pollution and environmental impacts. Tanjung Aru is our baby. We shouldn't risk this with your technical science that doesn't work. Another one I read. I don't care what you say. We do not want foreigners to get hold of Tanjung Aru. The beach belongs to us. Okay, so these are the two statement response from the floor. And another one. Oh, okay. Okay, this is for Mr. Lionel. Mr. Lionel already mentioned that the recent sea water of Tanjung Aru mostly polluted. So, can this Tanjung Aru Eco Project can overcome the pollution? How? Okay, and then this. Kami sekeluarga rakyat Sabah, rakyat Malaysia, mahu mengekalkan keadaan pantai Tanjung Aru buat pengekalan terhadap keadaan fizikal muka bumi yang ada di kawasan pantai Tanjung Aru. Kami bukan membantah sesebuah pembangunan yang inginkan dilakukan oleh pihak-pihak tertentu, tetapi mohon jangan biarkan pantai Tanjung Aru berubah. Kekalkan Tanjung Aru yang asal, bukan buatan manusia. And then the question is, bagaimana caranya kami yang datang ke public dialog seperti ini selepas ini dapat membantu dalam mengekalkan keadaan semula jadi pantai Tanjung Aru? So this is question maybe can respond also to the audience. So translate. Okay. Roughly for the first question, well, I think the first two statements is about we don't want It's in English.
Maybe I can just address that those two statements first. Something along the lines that we don't want foreigners, or we don't.
Hold on Tanjung Beach.
Yeah.
Tanjung Beach is ours.
Number one, unfortunately, that's an extremely racist statement. So I disagree with that. Right? None of us are pendatangs. Number one, again, if we go back, the parts of the lands that will be tendered out will be an international tender, and it's open to everyone, Malaysians as well. It's an open thing. But the rest of the development will be controlled by the TAED, and I reiterate, that's the state-owned company, and the state is run by you. There you are. With regards to you don't want change, unfortunately, change is on us every day. I'm sure you all agree with me, the biggest causes of pollution and erosion or anything is people. And the increase of population throughout the state, the town, the country, everywhere causes that problem. So we can't just leave it as it is. I think that if you leave it as it is, you can say that I'm lying, but only time will tell. But by that time, unfortunately, for us and for our children, it may be too late. In regards to the one in Malay, what was the question again, sorry?
It's about, the question is about asking how this public dialogue can help to maintain the environment, the natural environment of Tanjung Aru. Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
How can they help?
Yeah, well, I think all of you can help by ensuring whatever is presented when it is finalized. And I reiterate this is not finalized. As Klaus has said, there's still studies going on. We want your input. We listen to you. I cannot say that every single input will be addressed to your satisfaction. Unfortunately, that's how democracy works. Not everyone will be 100% satisfied, but we will listen to you, and that's why we are here, and that's how you will help this whole project, one way, shape, or form.
Okay. Yes, you do.
Let me go back and answer our gentleman's questions. I was raising my mic, it's okay. He was talking about silk screen. Now, I had a long dialogue with someone involving silk screen. Silk screen works during reclamation work and all. It works sometimes, it's strictly followed. But actually, this consultant was saying silk screen only prevents the larger grains of sand from going out into the sea. But the finer sands still go out, and that causes a lot of damage to the coral. So there is no way you can stop damage to the coral if there is reclamation. There's going to be damage. That's one thing. And then our consultant, I respect our consultant. More often than not, they're very clear, even on the cost of the project. I admire them for that. In this case, Singapore is not Malaysia. Sabah is not Singapore. They claim that there will be open tender. How true it will be, we don't know, because all the tenders here are so-called open. We know that. And in Singapore, there is strict enforcement and monitoring of all their projects. That part we know. Make sure it ensures that things are done properly. But in Sabah, for Sabahans, you know why buildings crumble, bridges break, hardly a year after it is handed over to the people. So, I'm sorry, but this is a fact that we all face every day. When coming to economy, well, it's all strictly based on money, yes, but for whose benefit? Somebody was mentioning about it will happen. Yes, Mr. Lau, domino theory, everybody will gain. The gain that you will have is the gain in prices. The prices of land, houses, commodity, food, everything will increase in the at least the Tanjung Aru area, if not the whole of KK, if not the whole of Sabah. That you have to be prepared, because the construction is costly. Who has to pay for it? And if the construction is abandoned halfway, who has to pay for it? You didn't make a decision. You were not involved in the decision making. But if the project fails halfway, abandoned due to economic problem or anything, we all owe it.
Okay, Mutu.
Okay, thank you.
So let's invite the next question. Yeah.
My name is Feng Yap. I'm from Frank Top. My question direct to Colonel Lau. They say nature is sustainable. I think it's true. 50 years ago when I first visited Tanjung Beach, it was not as pretty as it is now. It is even more better now. Meaning to say it is very sustainable. They say artificial is not sustainable. So Mr. Lau, may I ask you this question? Do you agree artificial is not sustainable? If you agree yes, why do you still want to support the project Tanjung Aru Eco Development System? Why do you still continue to support the project Tanjung Aru Eco Development? Thank you very much.
Okay, number one, sorry to say, nature on its own is sustainable. I mean, it really is an indisputable fact. As for is artificial sustainable for certain things? Yes. You can ask the lady that does plastic surgery. I think it's quite sustainable. But my point being is this. The point is this. If you leave it alone, yes, I agree with you. But unfortunately, Tanjung Aru is in the city. It's right next to an airport. You have people living around it, using it every day. More and more people, buses driving right up to it. It can't be sustained on its own. I know it's very emotional. Everybody has ties to it, especially here. In response to my fellow panelists, Mutu here, let's not start talking about who's benefiting for what. I mean, I can't. We are not here on a political forum, so let's just leave it at that.
Okay.
Okay, here's another few questions, yeah? Or maybe, yeah, go ahead.
Hello, I'm Peter Robinson. I probably know this beach better than most of you. Been playing here since before a lot of you were born. Frankly speaking, I have several questions. The first one is to the Danish Hydraulic Institute, because I find your statements a little bit contradictory. If there is very little movement of current, etc., then technically we're not losing sand. Okay, and so I'd like you to go a little bit more detail into that, please. The second question is, if you came here 50 years ago, in January and February, you would have seen turtles coming up on the beach. As recently as 30 years ago, they were still coming up on the beach here. Okay? The main issue here is the pollution in the sea, which we all know is not that difficult to solve. It may cost a few million, but it's not that difficult to solve. And you've got to remember that in the past, prior to Perdana Park being built, and this scrapyard of housing on the beach here now, that was a major development for government officers and staff. And they used septic tanks per 4 or 5 houses. Okay? That has not been an issue, or has not been done in recent years, specifically with this particular property here, which is a white elephant. But also, Waikiki, I believe, does not have its own proper septic system. So these are parts of the problem. But building 400 acres into the sea does not solve that problem. We need to look at it a better way. And if the sand is really eroding, which I don't agree with, there are things called gabions and various other things they use in various parts of the world to stop that erosion. And in fact, to control and train the passage of sand into the places you wish to have it. So those are my questions.
The erosion of the beach is not by the tidal waves. They play no role in that. That's by the tidal currents. That's by the waves. So it is exposed to waves, but in fact, what I said before, it's not enough exposed to waves to keep itself clean. So if you understand beaches and waves, when you have a very shallow beach as you have at Tanjung, then most of the wave energy will kind of dissipate before it reaches the top, and you don't have the longer waves to transport sand into the beach, but you have the shorter waves that can actually, and the storms, which there was a case, I had some pictures recently, about a month ago, I think it was. I wasn't here at the time, but we have some pictures from that where the waves then went all up and eroded and take some of the sand out. So that's one thing, and the other thing is that the waves come in an angle to the beach that generates a current along the beach, so it tends to take the sand from down at the southern part and up to the north, and then it deposits off the beach hotel. That's why you see a huge shallow area there, which is also not pleasant in its own right. So yes, just because you don't have tidal currents does not mean you cannot have erosion. Sorry to say, that's by the waves. Pollution, well, I wish it was as simple to solve the whole pollution problem as you indicate.
I can guarantee you this, because we did actually do some research into it a few years ago.
Pardon me?
We did do some research into resolving the septic tank issues a few years ago, as a private group, and it is not that difficult. It involves pumping and things, but it's not that difficult.
Yeah, I think let me just, the regional water quality issue is unfortunately beyond this project. I mean, I fully support anything that can be done to solve the water quality, and this was also highlighted by WWF earlier. What comes out of the big rivers there is not good, and it comes from a much larger area, from the whole of KK and inland as well. And it is beyond the scope of this project to solve that, unfortunately. So we can only try to guard ourselves against it. The local problem, so the 8 drains, that is actually part of the scope to solve that. So that will be channeled into one and treated to some extent, and then extended with a discharge point elsewhere. So that is part of the scope, just to clarify. So that would include whatever is in the chasm that goes now directly out on the beach, so the 8 drains that runs across the beach at the moment. And that includes also the first beach, so up to the beach hotel, which is outside of the project area, but it's recognized that the water quality from there also impacts the area and the beach in general, so that will be part of the scope as well. That's been taken up by the project.
Yeah, but I mean, you see, what you need to understand is off of Tanjung Beach, there is a small island that you see 99 days out of 100 now, basically dead coral. However, there's a channel through it. In the old days, there used to be a safety vessel called Sarah, moored in that channel. That reef was severely damaged when they built Reclaim for Tanjung Beach Hotel. And Tanjung Beach Hotel was reclaimed on the corner there because of the natural silting. Okay? Now, that reef is actually regenerated, and certain parts of it are actually very, very alive. And there are seagrasses in that, in certain parts of it as well. If you go snorkeling, you'll see that. However, at the end of the day, correct me if I'm wrong, this is about cleaning up and making Tanjung Beach better. And at the end of the day, we don't lose that much sand. And if we do, maybe it's cheaper to bring in 5 million ringgit of sand every year just to beautify it. At the end of the day, there is very little reason to reclaim land into the sea, whereby at the end of the day, nobody benefits. All that land they're going to repurchase or reacquire or whatever, that can be sold for housing. You've got to remember, in the old days, aeroplanes were noisier, they dumped a lot more exhaust fumes, etc., into the air around the area, and Borneo Hotel was a beautiful hotel. Not what you see today, but it was a beautiful hotel in the old days. So it's just a question of do we need this, or can we just improve what we have and actually do something proper about it?
Okay.
Moderator, just now the question not answered. Report Berhad on this environmental report. What is the reason for that? And Lana Lau, you say this decision of guarantee must be done by the state government, but the state government has told us, since it was launched in September last year by the Prime Minister, the government promised many dialogues to trash out all this problem. But today, this is the first one I'm standing here before you. It's already more than a year. What is happening? They are hiding all the dialogues from the public. They are, last day, even this one dialogue only two or 3 days notice. How can that be done? You want the public to know? Then have a big audience. Go to the Padang tomorrow, the Sabah Forest next. Okay, thank you much.
Yeah, my colleague Tanya will just respond to the airport.
Studies actually haven't been done. We're still at the TOR stage. So the TOR is the terms of reference. We had quite a lot of comments from the public on that. That is to define the scope of the EIA, to get agreement from EPD as well as the public commenters on what we should study in the EIA. So at this stage the TOR is not approved yet, so a lot of these consultations have not been done because we are not starting yet. Same with SIA actually.
And we have noted the comment in terms of consultation with the airport authorities, just to make that very clear, yes.
Okay, yeah, the next question. I have many questions, but I'll just start with two. Can the project proponent confirm where will be the car parking area for the public in your project design? Because we've been looking at it in detail and we've gone through the TOR. There doesn't appear to be a parking area for the public. And if you can tell us where that's going to be, can you also tell us whether it will be free or not under your proposed project? That's the first question. Second question is, we believe there's going to be dumping of earth and soil on top of Prince Philip Park in order to raise the level of it by 2 or 3 meters so that it will not be lower than the level of your proposed beach. So basically, if you dump soil and earth all over Prince Philip Park, you will be obliterating all the historical features and you will be killing the trees. So please can you confirm whether you're going to be doing that in your project?
The Fisherman's Wharf area in general vicinity. Again, this general plan that you see is not finalized in exact detail because it's still subject to various studies. Will it be free? I can't confirm nor either way on that either. I will not say that there's going to be a charge. I can't confirm whether. And why have we not come out and speak to everyone? And why did we take so long? It's because of all these studies. It is not a project that has been just thought up yesterday and bang, here we go. As DHI has mentioned, when it was first brought in, there was a general design, but it has, I don't know, I lost count of how many changes it has gone through, mainly because of environmental and social impact concerns. With regards to the soil,
yes, I mean the level would have to be raised at Prince Philip's Park. I don't know if you were anywhere close to Tanjung Beach in the recent storm, where you see that the water level is basically up where if it's just a little bit higher, the whole area starts to get flooded. It is very low lying, and that is the reason that we need to raise, also to make this a design for the future. So we take sea level rise, that unfortunately is a fact of life happening. So we take it into account to design the plan levels that we require to actually make this a design for the future. So you cannot avoid raising that level for safety reasons. I can say that that recent storm, it happened during, you have like a tidal cycle, you have neap tide, but the tide's not so high. And then you have spring tides where the tides are significantly higher. So if that storm happened a week later, earlier, there would have been severe flooding in that area, in fact, with the height it has. So it is a very low-lying area, and you need to take it into account.
So can you confirm then what will happen to all the heritage trees, which are the homes for the hornbills and the parrots, if you're going to smother them with soil?
No, I can't confirm that. I know that as part of the terms of reference that Stan is talking about, it is part of it to look at trees and which can and should be saved. But that detailed study has not been carried out at stage, and there's a landscape architect which is not present today involved in that aspect as well.
Okay, so I have a few questions from the floor first. This is for golf course considered giving back to the people or public. As we know, golf is an expensive sport and not all level of people can afford to enter the golf course. That's one. And the other question is, would Waikiki condominium owners see an appreciation of their property with the proposed erecting of 6 blocks of service apartments in front of Waikiki? Or would the value of Waikiki condominium drops? Maybe that question first.
I think with regards to the golf course, I think unless it's an entirely private golf course, I think it's a pretty affordable game. They are.
200,000 ringgit to be a member.
No. You can play. You can. No. You can play golf and not be a member. No. Let's be civil here. You can walk into a golf course and pay to play. There are public golf courses in the country. Now, I'm not saying that this course is going to be public. Neither am I saying that it's going to be private. Again, it is at the moment just a design, and it's mainly because that part of the property is not conducive for residential. With regards, sorry, what was the second question on that?
It's about the
Waikiki. I can't comment on that because I'm not a real estate agent. You could look at it two ways. It could appreciate because of all the amenities around you. So that's something for a property valuer. Sorry.
No, what I meant to say was there's 6 blocks of apartments coming right in front of Waikiki. Now a lot of Waikiki people pay for the sea view. Now we are not going to get sea view, but we're going to get apartment or back of apartment view, which I think is not right.
Point noted, but that's not something that I can comment in terms of your value of your property.
Sometimes at lunch, I can tell you that.
That's debatable. Sorry.
It is not debatable.
Okay. Yes.
Hello everyone. My name is Noruddin. We're all trying to say how long we have been on this beach. I was here, this was something when I was young. Anyway, that's beside the point. I disputed somebody who said that the Tanjung beach now is more beautiful than it was before. I like to dispute that because I was here during the British times and it was much beautiful than today. What I wanted to say was that the beach is spoiled. So we need to do something to beautify it, to improve it. It costs money. We have put blame on state government and whatever. So I think they have their faults. They have their weaknesses, that is for sure. But the fact remains that studies have been done. The water at the Tanjung beach is actually not healthy for swimming. It has been established. It's not something that we just speculate, okay? I'm a civil engineer. I've been through all these things already. But I am a bit concerned about the scale of the development. And if you have any development of this scale, you would have, no matter how much precaution you take, you would have detrimental effects on the environment, especially the marine environment. I used to dive years ago, okay, but I've stopped doing that because most of it's done to lunar landscape. But my question is now is, Is there any, we need to improve the beach, we need to revitalize it. There are a lot of things we need to do. But I'm a bit concerned that are we prepared to have this new beach at this cost? Can we have not such a huge development and still make money for the developer, but also improve the beach? I do understand it is all dollars and cents kind of thing, you know. You got to make sure that whatever you spend, you get your money back. I mean, this is all part of the game. But is there any way we can do this thing at a lower level so that the damage will not be so great and we still get the benefit of it? Thank you very much.
I think unfortunately we don't have the right person to answer that here. It's really the master planners who are driving the design, who looked at, together with, say, the economic cost-benefit analysis, and they're not here in the room today. From my perspective, if I just look at the quality of the beach, as I said earlier, we were actually some of those that actually promoted to push it forward just to get a better quality of the beach, to get more big exposure. But that's solely from that perspective. And the other aspect in terms of water quality and the regional water quality aspect is that you have the golf course and we have that little island down at the south there that's actually trying to trap some of the fine sediments that comes out of the Petegas River so that it doesn't travel up along the coast as it does now, so the course tends to stay back and the fine travels up on the beach, and that's why you see now that you have such a high silt and fines contact in the present beach. So that's actually trying to trap that. Again, that's very technical. Could it be scaled down? Well, of course everything can be scaled down and scaled up, but how the economy then works in it, that is beyond me, I'm afraid.
Okay, there are a few statements here. I will not read those statements. I will read only your questions. So, yeah. Okay, just please send your question and no statements.
Good afternoon. I've been to that reef on that small little island, and I'm just wondering, under the present plan, how is it going to be impacted? Is it going to be covered? Is it going to be dredged? And where is it exactly? Is it opposite the marina? I'd like to have an idea, because it's a beautiful beach. I have some photos, if I'm allowed to share, with the audience of the reefs there.
Yeah, thank you. I'm well aware of it. That also I do a lot of kayaking up in the area. Not so much recently, but I used to live out in Waikiki also and go kayaking all the time around the small reefs and dive there as well. Our preliminary studies that we've done shows that we can maintain the plume very close. Probably the most impacted during construction, what we predict at the moment would be the beach hotel, because it's will have some effect on turbidity around the beach hotel. But you also have that channel, as I mentioned, between. Actually, there are two small islands now. One is almost, because they popped up after Typhoon Break, and Typhoon Break destroyed a lot of coral that built up that little island that popped up closest to the Tanjung Beach Hotel first. That has almost disappeared now. But there's another which is consisting of mainly real quite coarse coral rubble further out, where there's fairly nice coral around that, as you say. The first little island, there's not so much coral there that we are aware of, at least we've seen so far. And yeah, the plume, as we have modeled it now, can sometimes impact that area, not to a degree that we actually think that it will kill coral, because coral can sustain some turbidity. They store energy, and if you get lower turbidity patterns in a long storm, they can survive that still, as long as they don't have it on a continuous basis for a long time, then they die. And the other island further out, so that's further out towards Mammootty, so we go for Beach Hotel and we have to go left out towards Mammootty. Our prediction is that the turbidity impacts out there will be very limited, because it mainly runs along the beach.
Okay, before the next, before you can ask questions, let me finish this question first. Yeah, this is for Mr. Lau. You said that is owned by us. What is it to do with Datuk Victor Paul on the board of directors who elected him? Can you please enlighten us? One. And the second question is, how do you take care of the stakeholders, such as the business persons, the condominium's owner? Yeah, how do you actually take care of these stakeholders, according to this question?
Okay, yes, TAED is a 100% owned company by the state government of Sabah. And on the board of directors are all the various head of various departments in the state. And the only civilian on that board is Dato' Victor Paul. And Dato' Victor Paul was put there for a reason, because as a businessman, a local businessman, he has proven that he can drive projects. But one very important point to note, that Dato' Victor Paul has taken the role on pro bono. He does not draw a single cent from this project. In fact, TAED, until the building offices and all that is being housed out of his office, his own personal office, free of charge. So if anything, he should be applauded for what he's trying to do. In terms of taking care of the stakeholders, I can only say that we will continue to engage the stakeholders as the project moves along, to help them. Sure, there's going to be some issues, there will be some inconveniences, etc., etc. But TAED has vowed to assist everybody in this period to make sure that as much as possible, everyone's concerns are addressed.
Okay, and earlier in this debate, Mr. Lionel told us that environmental and social impact studies have been made. And the lady from the consulting group said that they didn't. And can I ask who is telling the truth?
Well, when I say the social impact, we did not do an entire full-scale study. I did not say we did that, but we did look into it, and I know the master planners and the people behind the project has looked into this, because obviously we have to look at numbers and we have to look at all that. But as Tanya, I believe, of DHI has mentioned, that that is something in the term of reference to come.
Can I clarify?
I didn't say no environmental studies have been carried out. What I did say is that the EIA studies have been carried out. So that's the formal process through EPD. All the studies that Klaus has done on numerical modeling and scoping exercises to identify sensitive receptors and all of that, that has been done as part of the master planning process and has actually fed a lot into the master plan design. So these are environmental impact studies, but just not the formal EIA per se.
Yeah,
Hi, I'm no longer the chairman, by the way. So now a concerned citizen. I've got two questions. By the way, the state, two questions and one statement. The state, as you said, the company is wholly owned by the state, and we are part of the state. But however, if we would have been responsible with the final decisions, this would not happen today. That's the statement I'd like to make. Now, it seems obviously that a lot of money have been spent for the preliminary studies, but until now, we are still doing the studies. But however, the project has been launched. So a lot of people said it's a done deal. Now I don't know, I'm only repeating what I think everyone's worries are. So in between now and in between the time when the project has been launched and from as far as the preliminary studies started, how much more money have been put aside until the government decided that the project will commence. How much more money will be involved, and the expected time for the project to commence. Surely you would be able to do that, to tell us that, because budget would have been worked out, and again, like I said, this is going to be a lot of cost have been spent. How much more cost will be involved before the commencement of the project? That's the first question. Number two, as Mr. Benatai mentioned just now, a lot of the pollution that Mr. Lionel Lau, in fact, even mentioned, that is happening at the beach, Tanjung Aru Beach, actually does not just come from the water itself, which is the sea. The water by the beach. The water is coming in from inland, from Sungai Petagas, from Sungai Sembulan. So a lot of it has got to do with people throwing rubbish with a lot of other pollution. Maybe the cutting down of trees or timber from somewhere else is as part of what happened recently because of the flood. Okay, that has not been addressed by the government. But if you're talking about, all the things that you're going to be doing, the mangrove swamps that you're going to be doing to protect the part of the beach where you're going to be doing the development, which will be eventually, you say, going to go back to the people. What has been done now to address the problem, which is actually from inland? Are you even aware of that? If you cannot address the issue now from inland, how are you going to address with so much billions of money that suddenly you think will come out? If you're talking about women and plastic surgery, this is a huge, terrible, bad plastic surgery job that you're going to do. Thank you.
Okay. Number one, again, I reiterate, this is your duly elected state government that has made this decision. Yes, the project has been launched. Yes, you may not have voted for the state government, but it's a democracy. We still live in a democracy. So the state government has been elected, and the state government has deemed it fit that this project will happen. Now, will it happen in exactly the way it is at the moment? That has not been finalized. That, as we said, there are still continuous studies going on and details, and in fact it has been scaled down to a certain extent. So when will this be launched and how much? In fact, it is still subject to the studies, the final EIA studies, etc. Before it can actually anything happen. So right now it is still in that studies phase. Yeah.
Mr. Lau, you have said earlier, this is not a political forum. Yes, I respected that. But when dealing with public spaces, dealing with public money, built on natural beach, it is a political issue. And you said, this is a government that we elected, and they have the right to build whatever they want. Nobody above the law. Nobody above the law. Not because you are in position today, not because you are in power today. You can do whatever you want. You must consult the people first. Why the project launch? Now I want to ask you, the way you said it, the way you put it, as though this project will go on. No matter what. Might be cut a bit here and there. But what we want to say is whether this project will go on or not.
At no time did I say that the government can do what they want. Okay, let's be very clear on that. You elected the government, right? Then the state government has to do within their remit. Now, is anyone above the law? Obviously not. Okay, let's be clear on that. Okay, please do not change my statements. That's number one. Okay, yes, the project is happening because, as Faza pointed out, the project has been launched. So I would be lying to you if I were to stay here and say that no, the project isn't happening, because obviously the government has spent money on it, and the cabinet has approved of the project, and then hence, like I said, the project is at this moment. Will the state government change its mind later? I cannot say. I do not run the state. So as this stands right now, the project is happening. In its exactly shape or form, I cannot comment on that because the studies have not been finished.
But remember, the law has long out.
Agree. Okay. Fine. Then let us talk nicely. I enjoy a very nice ambient with this sort of discussion. But unfortunately, we are dealing with the interests of the people, not about this generation, but generations to come. People in power, not necessarily just here to meet the need or the greed of the present people of this generation, a few of the people of this generation, but we must also consider the generation in the future. And how many cities in this world or in Malaysia have such a beautiful beach like KK? How many? And this is a natural beach. And I want to ask, what legal basis you have to build on a natural beach? According to Sabah's land ordinance, no natural beach allowed to be touched. What legal basis you have to propose the project on a natural beach front? Second, have you consulted anybody, the people, the stakeholder, before you come to propose this project, and or already with a conceptual plan, already launching it? How many parties have you consulted before you do that? This is the people's land, and the chief minister clearly said that in few months ago, said this land will be giving to the people. Giving to who? A few rich people or the people in general? The Rakyat of Sabah, the Rakyat of KK. We want to know who this land giving to. In the mid-1990s, in US, Canada, we are talking about scenic area conservation practice. But when you were here 5 years ago, looking at the sunset, as you just said, and you just look at the sunset, how beautiful is the sunset? But might be the beach is not in pristine, the surrounding might not be in pristine condition because of mismanagement, because of irresponsibility of the local authority. That doesn't mean this scenic place can be sacrificed. I would like to ask, you present a very beautiful picture and presentation, and I like to ask, what was the last statement on the screen that you just made?
We do not borrow the earth for our children in the future.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. So this is a free country. You might free to accumulate your wealth or richness, but don't rob it from the children. Don't rob it from the children.
There are many questions. Maybe you can ask your last question. Yeah.
He's already asked.
Yeah.
He's already made his last statement.
Is that the last question, Porta?
No. I want to ask one more serious question. Can I ask one more serious question?
The serious question, the last serious question.
When you propose this project, for what purpose? For what purpose? Seriously, honestly, telling the people for what purpose this project was proposed. Really? Just for control pollution? Really? or for economic purpose. It's okay for economic purpose. You just said you have spent 100 million, 100 over million buying up land, surrounding area for this development. 100 over million. How much you can do to this beach? That means we are not poor. We have the money. If you are poor, this government, shame on you. Millions of acres of forest being chopped down, millions of acres of oil palm being planted, and we have no money to maintain a beach for our children. Shame on you.
Yeah, okay. Thank you very much for your question. I think we could stop there.
If I could
Maybe
just,
you can just respond.
Sorry, if I could just respond. Number one, in terms of the legality of the project, I do not work for the legal part of the government. So I cannot comment on that. That is something that maybe if you want to take up with your state assembly, that is something for you to point out. With regards to why was this project mooted in the first place, I think we've answered that. That is, it is a combination of economic, social, and environment. It's not 100% just environment. I think we've established that. There are economic considerations, obviously, to develop the lands and to basically help the state and the people.
My name is Omar Abdul Kadir. I think Mr. Lionel Lau, you, I think, repeatedly say that the project has been launched. All right, we acknowledge that, but by saying that, do you mean that it's a gone case, it's already going to go ahead? If we believe in that, I'd like to remind myself and the rest of us here, launching a project doesn't mean that you're going to go ahead with it. A good example is the coal power plant that they were going to build in the East Coast. It was launched 3 times. First in Silam, some years ago, when even into the late night, Wong Tat used to contact me because we were both on the panel for the review of the TOR, and then after that it was scrapped, and about a year or 2 later it sprung up again, launched in Seguntur in Sandakan with a big hoo-ha and all that. And thirdly, when people were making noise, it was launched by none other than a prime minister in Lahadatu in Sahabat. But what happened to it today? It was the prime minister himself, with the consent of the state government, to scrap it. So I think this is something that we should bear in mind, that if it is not of the benefit of the public at large, you know, we should not be jumping to the conclusion or giving the impression that once it's launched by somebody, we have to accept it. No way. No. I can tell you that from my own personal experience.
If I could just respond to that. First and foremost, I did not mention that it was launched first. Faza was.
When I'm here, you said 3 times.
No. May I answer, please? The first issue of mention that the project has already been launched was by Faza. She asked whether the project is a done deal. That the project, because the project has been launched. So I replied, yes, the project has already been launched and it has been approved by the cabinet. So as it is right now, it should and will happen. But as you have pointed out with the coal-fired plant, I cannot comment on what will happen if the government decides to scrap the project or otherwise. I cannot comment on that. Let's be very, very clear here. Faza was the one who asked. She said, is the project a done deal because it has been launched? And I said, yes, it's been launched. The state cabinet has approved it. It has been announced in the media already. The chief minister has announced it clearly. So I cannot sit here and tell you that the project has not been launched. So that part is clear. And the fact that it has been launched means as it is right now, yes, the project will go on as right now, at this moment. What will happen tomorrow, I cannot comment.
When you said that statement, you're making a mockery of the process of the EIA and all that. Because the EIA, as we just heard, is only in the terms of reference, review the terms of reference stage. There's still the requirement of the law that has to be
Sorry,
complied with.
I think you're twisting my words. I did not say, I said, as I said, I agree with Faza, the project has been launched. As it is right now, the project will happen. In whether it is exactly in its current state is subject to all the studies. Please, let's be very, very clear on that. Thank you.
Okay, Omar, please stay to your question. And
I have a few questions. This is a public forum. I made an effort to be here. I can say that I grew up, or part of my life I spent in Tanjung Aru from 1970. I was a student here. I lined up on the street there when Prince Philip came to officiate the Prince Philip Park. So I'm passionate about this. I met my wife here as well. Dated her and enjoyed the most beautiful sunset that you've probably seen anywhere in this world. And I've been to various places in the world as well. Yeah, and I would like to see that it's still there.
To understand, say their questions.
I think the justification that we've been getting, like what I think Wong Tat has also alluded us, is that you all have to do this big, massive project just to clean up Tanjung Aru Beach, just to save it from disappearing, from whatever cause, whether it's pollution, whether it's erosion, or you name it. If you don't do something, there will not be Tanjung Aru Beach. I've been here, I jog along here from 1970 onward. I live just at the Kampung Air in Tanjung Aru, and it's just as it was 45 years ago. And I don't think it's going to disappear in the next 45 years. So don't give us that, I could use a rougher word, but don't give us that kind of argument. You all are not doing this to save Tanjung Aru Beach for the sake of making it a cleaner and better beach for the public. It is, let's be fair and be frank about it and transparent about it. You all want to develop the real estate around the area so that someone can make millions or billions of dollars out of it. Let's be fair about it and be transparent about it. Don't beat around the bush and try to justify we have to do this and that because we want to give the people of KK and Sabah in Malaysia a better Tanjung Aru Beach. That's bullshit to me.
Okay, Mr.
Alright?
Omar, I think thank you for your
So don't give us facts. I come here to listen to facts.
Okay.
Last and not least, I could mention another thing. For any stakeholder that is not happy or aggrieved by the decision, whether it's by the government or by any parties, we always have the court. And we all in the Sabah Wetland Conservation Society just went through that experience. We went and tagged a developer who was developing a condominium next to the KK wetland. We lost it at the High Court. We couldn't get a judicial review against the approval of the EIA, but we won it at the Court of Appeal, and the project was scrapped after that because of it.
Yeah, thank you.
Long arm. So thank you. My name is Chan Fong Hin. In fact, I'm the politician here. Luyang Assemblywoman from SAPP. All right. So okay. Basically, what I would like to say is the first question I would like to point to Mr. Lionel. Are you the same person going to State Assembly Hall to brief us on next Tuesday morning?
Originally, yes.
Okay.
And unfortunately, I won't be able to do it because the meeting has been changed from Monday to Tuesday, as you know. So my colleague will be there, yes.
Alright, thanks for the question. So, in order to provide not only one-sided story to all the aduns in the State Assembly Hall, I think my second question I target to Mr. Budu and also Saudara Bernadette. Can you all come into some kind of the write-up to provide the alternative view to all of the aduns in the State Assembly Hall? Don't let all of the 60 aduns in the State Assembly just listen to the one-side story from this TAED. And in fact, I think Mr. Lionel is not really from TAED. They are basically maybe is an expert or outsourced or engaged professional PR company. So basically, in fact, he can't really answer all of the questions. So if all of the citizens here, if you want to throw out your dissatisfaction, throw out to the state government in the power now. Alright? Okay, so in fact he's quite a scapegoat. Okay, okay. I would like to ask, okay, if all of you try to become the lobby group, okay, in the State Assembly Hall, come to tell to your respective adun in your area, please don't proceed with the project. Thank you.
Thank you. You asked us a question. I, on my behalf, say yes, we are willing to do it more than provide a written thing. No, we would like to be there in person, provide the slides and explain the alternative. That's a better thing. And just to clarify to everybody, don't bark at the wrong tree. The consultants, they have done an excellent job of what are the problems, and they come out with mitigation measures. They've done a good job. Whether it works or not, there's another story, because you need to have monitoring. Our Mr. Lau is only a public relations man. His company has been engaged to make the project look nice, and he's doing an excellent job. So you cannot bark at him. You know, please, that's his job. They are professionals. But you and me, we are here not as a job. It's our duty. It's our duty to our children, not just to ourselves, our grandchildren, and so on. Because we don't want to take the future from them. And so we hope if this thing doesn't happen on Tuesday, Miss Cynthia Ong can actually arrange for dialogue directly with the whole cabinet, and we are willing to do a presentation. SOS is willing to give a presentation, but to the right people. We are actually barking at the wrong trees. They cannot answer for the state government. The state cabinet has made a decision, and they are not going to change it.
Yes. Thank you. Maybe we ask Mr. Burden to respond for a while.
I think the tech version 2, we're going to come up with at least some resolution, right, from this dialogue. I think that will be a good effort as well. Instead of individual NGO, I think public behind us, I think that's more meaningful and powerful.
Okay, let's invite the next.
Hi, my name is Robert. I'm a local engineer, mechanic to be specific, and I work constantly with the flood mitigation department of Malaysia, of Sabah rather. And I can probably most well versed with how flooding works here in KK with regards to what Tanjung Aru means in terms of wave development and the development of coral reefs. We have to be frank here, and I'd be lying to us if we said that we haven't had similar developments in the past. In fact, KK in itself sits on 50% reclaimed land, if not more. The very vast majority of the cities sits on reclaimed land. My biggest, I think, what we're scared of the most is whether or not we'll be able to replicate the same public access that we have to a beach as beautiful as ours. Ensure environmental
to various studies and so forth.
Well, I think we'll talk first.
Me first.
See you first. Oh, okay.
It's a favor. Thank you, Madam Chairman. I'm Melanie Chia. I'm also a politician. When the Environmental Department opened up the terms of reference for public review, we submitted our comment to the department. Until now, we have not had a reply, and I'm glad to understand from the consultant that, in fact, the terms of reference, your terms of reference have not been approved. Is that right? Yeah? Okay, that is good. Then I'd like to take this opportunity first to thank the organizer today for having this forum. As Faza had earlier said, that a lot of people in Kota Kinabalu had thought that this is a gone case. This is a foregone conclusion that the project is going ahead. But until today, if the terms of reference has not been approved, and if the State Assembly is going to give a briefing to the State Assemblyman next Tuesday on the project, we still have a chance. And I'd like to thank the organizer. So my question now is not so much to the consultant. and the panel of presenter today, because we have heard enough and we have heard enough comment. Why I'm here today is I want to know what can be done next. Now, what the organizer had done, the organizer had in fact taken the civil society in Kota Kinabalu to a new height. We know that in Kota Kinabalu, we should have more of this civil awareness. Although we did not manage to vote the government out, right? So, although we didn't change, it doesn't mean that whatever they do, they can bulldoze. Now, I'd like to highlight this. The Chief Minister had many times before, in and out of the State Assembly, had said, no more seafront reclamation. He himself has said it. Foreshore Reserve. We know what Foreshore Reserve is. Wong Tak is very good at that. Foreshore Reserve. Why touch our Foreshore Reserve? It's for the people. You're not supposed to build on it. So don't. We are not saying that, you should stop on whatever land you bought up, Borneo Hotel, that's your right. You bought the land, please go ahead, do it. And just follow the proper procedure. Make sure you get the right approval so that our Waikiki condominium will not be blocked by whatever high-rise you want to put in front. That's social impact study. You must ask the resident of Waikiki that they accept there's going to be a high-rise block in front of you. So, on the more technical issue, in my comment to the environment, I mentioned the birds. I'm very happy to hear Bernard say that where the bird originated, where at its source, you can't find them. But we can find them in Tanjung Aru. You know why? Then why do we want to sacrifice, get rid of what we have nurtured for the last 40 years? 40 years is not easy to come, 2 generations. 40 years, 2 generations. My children go to Prince Philip Park. Although today, the developers say, hey, KK people don't go to Prince Philip Park, that's not true. If you make Prince Philip Park a nice park, I'm sure we all love to go. So, landfill. You didn't mention today that your imported landfill, as mentioned in your terms of reference, is 14 million cubic meter. I can't imagine how much is in 17 million cubic meter. Can you imagine? Landfill. Enough landfill to fill the existing Kota Kinabalu, maybe double. Right or not, Mutu? Yeah. So, then the question is... Okay. So, my question is, now, Lionel, you mentioned that okay, you are now maybe looking at scaling down. You mentioned, I didn't put your words. Put words into your mouth.
I mentioned that the studies are still continuing. Okay, anything can happen.
Okay.
So.
But the terms of reference of your EIA is not approved yet.
Correct.
But the way that Datuk Victor is speaking up, is press statement, is as if is full force, is steaming full force. Yeah, but what I understand today, that in fact a lot of things is still on the drawing board. Right, so if it is still on the drawing board, you listen to the people, as you say, we are the stakeholder. Correct? We do not forget that, we own, as you said just now, we own it.
Yeah,
so
the
question is, as earlier said, we know you're a consultant, you are the PR man, but are you in a position to bring whatever said today back to your boss?
Yes, I am. I have taken all the notes. My colleague has been taking down notes on the questions. we've taken the points that Mutu has brought up and Bernard has brought up as well.
Because enough has been said about not going ahead with the extensive reclamation, right?
Yeah.
But so are you definitely putting forth? Now, secondly, you say you will, but will Datuk Victor Paul listen to you?
He will listen. What will happen, I cannot comment. Because ultimately, it will be a decision by the state. So, that's your answer.
Okay, so my last point is, okay, then in view of all this, I support Tech 2 in whatever effort that you would persevere to do to make sure that we still have the best beach in the world. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Shirley. And Wong Tak, please make your question short and brief.
I am a non-practiced politician, so my question will be short. But unfortunately, if you allow, let me say a few words, because the whole afternoon here, so many people mentioned whether this one will be a gone case or not. Let me assure you, this is not a gone case. This afternoon, you might just see a few people here, a small group here. But let me tell you, always, small group can change the world as long as you persevere. And whether this is a gone case or not, look at how we fought coal plant, never a gone case. Look at how we fought the Malaysian fought Linus toxic plant in Kuantan. 3.5 years ago when we started the campaign, the share in Linus is $2.70. And today, you check it out, today, tell me how much? 5 cents. Today, the share of Linus is 5 cents. As long as we keep on fighting and we believe in the power, people's power, and we also believe, more important, we believe in the power of love. If you love this country, if you love this land, if you love this beach, if you love our community, we together will make a difference. We will decide. Okay, my question is very strong. Okay? Responding to your statement just now, you have done complete, probably not detailed study before you have the project launch. You said you have worked on the economic side, you also look at the social side and the environmental side. Probably you are better in social, because it's a very important issue, how it affects the people. Can you tell us how much park space we have in KK? Is that sufficient? Is that enough that we can take this one off? How much park space we have? Okay, look at that. Look at that. We only have 100 over acres of nature. And let me tell you, natural park is a very essential infrastructure. Nature park is a very essential infrastructure for urban environment. And we are here to build a livable city. We are prepared for future. We are prepared for climate change to come. So the park play a very important role. And you have to see why you're talking about your project. You're only looking at the beach and looking at the sun. You didn't look at how this project will bring KK forward. Can you tell us how this project can bring KK forward? Ecologically, psychologically, socially, how you can bring KK forward?
Okay, I think that is your question. How can KK move forward? Done?
Yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah. You see, we started off. This city started off saying with big vision. KK will be a rainforest city. Are we progressing or we are regressing? We are regressing. Are we progressing towards that goal? We talk so much about it when we form this city. But KK will become a rainforest city. What we are hitting now?
Sorry, I disagree with that statement. It's not nonsense. It's stated there. There is an increase in park space. Yeah, the park is public. It's 100% park. It's open to the public. There is no charge to go into the park, so that is public access.
So would the people of Sabah today, after you finish your beautiful park, we can have a barbecue there, we have a party there, we have a
yes.
whatever is going on now.
That's the plan. No, it's not for rich men only. That's the plan. It will be. If I'm not mistaken, it's a designated park, and so it has. There's no charge. It is a public space. In terms of what this project will do for the people of KK and Sabah at large, I think it's quite clear to see in terms of economic impact with the investments expected to be brought in and the jobs that it will provide. I think we can all agree here that tourism is the main driver of this state, and I think it's the plan to continue for that to be so. If I may just remind everyone, in many countries in the world, projects like this will not take place, will not even start if there was not a guaranteed foreign investment or direct investments into the project. While this project has been mooted and tried to push forward, there's no guarantee, in fact, for the government to recoup all these investments. Perfectly honest, they are hoping that this will work and provide the impetus in terms of the tourism into the city, actually, KK. Because right now, what you've become is mainly a gateway.
How you will affect the existing hotel?
I think those studies will continue to be done, and again, all stakeholders will continue to be engaged.
Yeah, I think we need to give Bennett to respond to that question.
Take on this point about public access. I think today we did not talk much on public access. Somebody highlighted parking space, one of them. Seemingly not many, seemingly very restricted. And also the design of the whole thing. I'm not talking about WWF right now. That's a conversation because this is not about conservation. The design of the project surrounded the whole area with a canal and had 5 or 6 access routes to service the residential. Only one access route for the public. That design itself is very subtle, very subtle. In Hong Kong, people have high civil awareness. They even afraid of taking step into some public space. That developer had put up condominium in front, knowing that behind the public space they can go inside. But the design is so subtle that it deters them from going in. Here we're talking about kampung folks, talking about people from the rural coming here to enjoy the weekend. And you put up only one access road, limited parking, surrounded by canal, high-class residential area. The 6 other access roads are for servicing the residential area. Only one access road for the public. So that itself, technically, hopefully, for the good of the people, this has to bring some clarity. We have to explain it well, technically. What is all about, actually? What are you trying to do with all this kind of design? Thank you.
I'm not the right person to respond because it comes from the master planner, but I will just give a little bit, since I was there with the master plan in the meetings. The scope we got, and including the master planner, in all means it's been very clear. It has to be a bigger give back. So the beach has to be at least as long as it is. It has to be a bigger area. The park area has to be bigger than existing. It has to be low density development with as much public access as possible. So that's been very clear. And then the master planner has come up because the other view was to avoid having the cars right down to the beach and the big parking areas and all that brings to it. So that's part of that eco and try to keep it green. I mean, people can disagree, agree with it, but that's certainly what was brought up as part of the scope for the study, and that the master planner took that on board and say, okay, we keep the peaks. What really guarantees the public access, the way I see this, that you have a public promenade running all along the beach and a wide buffer between the beach and the hotels. Because we can all fear that once you have hotels in the background, they will have to control the beach, of course, for their guests and have, only access for their guests. But because you have the public access that runs all along there, and that's envisaged with electrical bus, that's free for everyone, so you get on the bus, they still for those who can't walk, and it runs all along there on a regular basis. So that was the basis of it. As you said, it's not only one now, I think there are actually 3 bridges going across the canal now. There might only have been one in the original layout, but that was also pointed out, and there are now 3 going across for the access. So it is, I think, I fully understand people's concerns. I can only say, as being there with the master planner and work together with him, that's their vision. That's actually the way that we keep the noise and the dirt and the pollution out from the canal side, but guarantee the access for the public, with that public access running all along the beach, between the beach and the foreshore and the hotel, the private side.
Okay, I think that's good expression of the public space. Now let's invite the next person.
Thank you. Jun Fong, the YB of Because. So basically, let's talk about the public access road for the cities. We're talking about
and please keep your question short, because we are out of time.
Okay. First of all, we want to know whether the public as well as freely accessible to the public are guaranteed. Because you guys are saying there are plans that will be guaranteed, not guaranteed, but as much passage as possible to actually allow the public to access the beach. But is it guaranteed? Why do I say guaranteed? Because once this has been done, has been changed, and it's not given to the public, then it's not reversible, and then we will lose that beach forever. That's one of our main concern here. So I think if we were to look back at the previous similar project that was actually built, and the similar or same promises were given, saying that the public space will be given, we should be looking at Sutra Harbour. Then at the end of the day, today is Sutra Harbour freely accessible for all the public. Of course, you can argue it's debatable, is yes. But how many normal people actually go to Sutra Harbour today? How many? And I think at the end of the day, it's the people of Sabah wants the beach to remain here as it is, than to have another Sutra Harbour. So, and I take offense by the fact that you said that golfing, regardless of whether it's public or it's private, it's actually affordable to a lot of people here. It's just like, come on, let's be civil here. 10 ringgit from the airport is reasonable. Let's be civil. But then, how many people can afford that 10 ringgit airports today? Let me buy you a beer and we can sit out for a few hours and look at the people who can actually come to the beach here. And I don't think it's affordable for them to go to the golf. So, not mean to be added, but this is, I take offense for that comment. And the other point that I would like to make is that we're trying to sell to the people here that saying that this belongs to the people because it's wholly owned by the government, right? That's what you say. It's wholly owned by the government. It's the directors are the state agencies, permanent secretaries of the ministries, all these big guns. Basically, that is the problem. That is exactly the problem because that's lack of lack of transparency. There's huge conflict of interest. Because the people who are proposing it are the people who are sitting in the cabinet. They are people who are running through it. They are the policy makers, and they are the government agencies. They are people who are gathering the land. They are people who are doing the land survey, and they are the people who propose it, and then they go through it and they approve it. So that's huge. Where's accountability? There's no accountability. So the questions now, and I have relevant questions for a gentleman here because I know you don't represent the company, you don't really represent the government, so you can't answer for them. So just one question is that. Why are the professional gentlemen taking up the jobs from the government when you know that there's not been the detailed studies, there's not been investigations being done, nothing has been justified, but the project has been launched, and you're taking up the job and thinking that the project will be good for the people, and you're taking it up and you believe in it without the studies being done. And why are you taking up the jobs? That's one very important question. And if it's for job and economic developments of this large scale, bring it somewhere else. Leave the beach to the people. Bring it somewhere else.
Yes, thank you, James.
Thank you.
I presume to say that. But right now, all we can say, as with my colleague from DHI, all the meetings that we have been, all the briefings that we have heard from the relevant authorities to the consultants have been that public access is a must. And it must be guaranteed. And hence, as Hao said earlier, the promenade is huge. You can't mistake it right now, and I understand the fear, but it is there. It is there, and it is there for all to see.
Okay.
Well, that's very brief. I hate microphones, sorry. Gentlemen, first of all, I'd like to congratulate the board. It takes a lot of courage to sit up there and take all this emotion, but it's heartfelt emotion and it's not antagonistic. So I'd like to congratulate you on your courage to sit in and answer some questions. Secondly, my question is not an emotional question. My question is totally logistical and practical. I would like to know if you can answer the question, when will the beach be closed at the beginning of works? I use the beach daily. I just want to know, from a practical point of view, when will the fences go up?
Those dates have not been confirmed, again because the terms of reference are still has not been approved and the studies have not been finalized. And I think we can only announce those dates once those studies have been done.
The duration has been mentioned in the press already, that it's going to be closed for 18 months. I just wondered if we know a start date.
No, we don't at this stage, and I would also say that as part of the EA, I mean, looking back at that is also part of the phasing. So the phasing of how it will be built in phases and how are those phases exactly planned to minimize the disturbance to the public and what are the considerations. That's something we will look at further as part of the EA studies.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, my comment was related to that actually. It was going to be exactly the same thing. You say that you want public participation and input, and yet and public access to the beach is going to be guaranteed, but you're going to close the place off for at least 1.5 years. At least 1.5 years, completely closed off. So where do you expect the public to go in the meantime?
As I said, the phasing and what part is closed is still to be looked at in the detail. It's not everything that's going to be closed at once. At least I expect. I mean, I cannot, guarantee that. But as part of the study team, that's my impression now that it will be closed in phases to allow the construction to go on. I mean, that's unavoidable with a project like this that we close from a health and safety perspective. Yeah, let's not beat around the bush. I mean, with a big project like this, yes, there will be big construction going on, and you need to close part of it to be able to carry it out safely for everyone. And there will be disturbance during the project implementation. Absolutely, there's always a cost during implementation to reach the final goal. Exactly the details, I said, if I had them, I would give them to you, obviously, but they probably won't even be finally known until you actually have a contractor appointed to do this, because they'll come in with their specific working methodologies, and it'll be the EA will be lined out, and then there'll be negotiations, vendors, what start and whatever else. So that's a process. And in all the big projects that I've been involved in, that is a process that really you only get the final details on paper once you have a contract on board and you know exactly how it's going to be done. So there'll be a process, I assume, with tendering different contractors, so there are different methodologies, and part of the assessment of that may be public inconvenience. So that could be part of the determining factor. How do they get away with it, right?
Well, may I suggest that when you're doing your social impact survey, that you actually put that in the information that you're giving to the public, how long they will not have access to the beach and the park, before you start tendering out to the contractors. I think that will influence people's opinion a lot, number one. And number two, I would like to know whether you're going to be closing SK Tanjung Aru as well, since that school falls under your project area. Is the school going to be closed down or not?
Just first, I mean, as you say, giving that information to the public, I mean, that's why the 18 months is out there. That's the best estimate at the moment, and that's exactly so people can give feedback and are aware of what we're talking about. The school is beyond me.
I believe the school, there are plans to purchase the land from the federal government and move the school to a different location. I do not believe that has been finalized. And in regards to informing, obviously, all the stakeholders, that is definitely in the plans.
So moving a school is has a major impact to the local population, doesn't it?
Yes.
I think that should be made very clear to everybody as well.
Yes, of course.
And then my last question is about traffic jams. We all know who live and work in this area that at certain times it's gridlocked. It affects people trying to get to Terminal 2, it affects people trying to get to the schools. You're proposing in your project an extra 12,000 residents living in the area, 12,000 extra people driving. Your one extra road going to Putatan is not really going to benefit people because nearly everybody wants to go to KK. So do you not think that traffic jams are going to be a major adverse effect to the public?
That is being done by the traffic consultants, and I believe they are looking into that. We will take your comments and put it to them.
Okay, this is last question. Okay.
I've been waiting for a long time. Okay, my question is, can this project be relocated if the government insists going on for a big development? This kind of huge and gigantic development, it will involve a lot of things like your echo, your pollution, environmental problem. Definitely, it will affect. Don't tell me that you do not affect the environment. Now, my question is this project is at the profit of a small group of people at the expense of the benefit of a large group of people? If it really have to go on in this project, can the government find another place to do a big development, say like a northern part, go to near Papa there, make the economy of Papa better? Not go somewhere else. And ask yourself, many of you here, ask your heart, do you really want Tanjung Aru Beach to be, modified? Not in the way that you want to. Do you want to retain and remain a natural resource, a natural one, for the people, for the benefit of people? I'm sure when the development is done already, the access of the public to the beach is really questionable. And second question, if no development assumed going on, can the government upgrade the Prince Philip Park and the beach? Look at the garden. It has been deteriorating. Why? Because the government is not doing work, it's not doing maintenance work. You look at Likas, the bicycle path. If you do something like that, do you want to go there? I'm sure you go to Likas. There's a bicycle path just recently built. Isn't it better? I think the people there will feel, people going there will feel better. Upgrade the beach, upgrade the park. That's what the common people will want. The common people will just want to go there to have their free time, get a valuable time there. It's not that because the people don't go there, because the park is not well maintained, because there's no proper public transportation. You know how good is the public transportation in KK itself?
Yeah. Okay.
No bus go to the hospital. Tamai Hospital, no bus going there. If you feel sick, you cannot feel sick. If you feel sick, you have to get a car to go to the hospital.
Okay, yeah.
Okay?
I think that summarizes.
That's my question. And a lot of people, I'm supposed to also share our opinions. Thank you.
Yes. So with that final question, okay, let's invite the last
I
response.
think that was more a political question than I can answer. What you can do better for the rest of KK and other parts. If you move this project elsewhere, people elsewhere may have the same comments. So I think that's not a question that I can really address or anyone can address. If, maybe that's something that you want to take up with your state assembly.
Okay.
Final question to me, because I want to ask that. I pointed out that the so-called new artificial beach is not sustainable for two reasons: cost factor, sand factor. Cost 45 million a year according to the consultants to maintain the beach and the park. Third world state like Sabah can't even spend a few $100,000 every month, every year. Do you think they will spend $45 million every year on maintaining the beach and the park? You have to answer this question. Maybe the cabinet doesn't know. I spoke to a cabinet member. He went like that. Yes. They are not aware because sometimes, you know, the way they work. And the sand, you have to constantly feed the sand. Where is the sand going to come from? That's why I say the beach may be maintained the most 1 year, 2 years. Then they will say, God is washing away the sand. The beach cannot be maintained.
Okay.
There will be no beach. But I want them to answer. Where do you think you get the 45 million every year? And where do you think you get the same? They have to.
Okay. Okay, so this is the last response, because after this we will have the closing statement from each of the panelists also. Okay. Yeah.
Okay, I'll just say first, if you want to know about the sand, then I'm happy to give that little presentation. That's actually part of it, why we do not need to replenish every year. In terms of the 45 million, just make very clear, it's not something that's come from us to maintain the beach at all. That's a different number, and we don't know exactly as to what it contains. There's a lot more than just the beach and the park.
I think those numbers is not just the sand, and I think the whole plan to maintain the whole development comes partly from the land sale. And of course the subsequent regeneration of income from all the facilities, the retail facilities, etc., etc.
Okay, so with that, I invite each of the panelists to give their last closing statement for this forum. Okay, we start with Mr. Bernard from WBR.
Just a very short one. The design was very impressive, very beautiful. But the question is, does it have a soul? A soul. What's the point of gaining the whole world? You lost your soul. That's my question.
Actually, okay. As I said earlier, to me the whole project looks something fishy. It cannot work. It cannot work. The beach will not be maintained. It cannot be maintained because of the high cost of money, unless it falls from the sky, and the sand that also falls from the sky. Other than that, as we said, the niyat of the authorities who made the decision has to be known. So for that, we actually have to talk to them, not to our consultant. They are professional people, nothing against them. They have done an excellent job. So please don't carry any ill feelings towards the consultants. Personally, I would like to ask this question to the state cabinet. If you think your project is good, meet us. Meet Tanjung Action Group and let us show you. We are not going to prove to you, we show you. And please make a decision after you have listened to both sides of the story. Do not make decisions just based on one thing, one side. As I said earlier, I don't blame the consultants because the terms of reference given to the consultant is, I want to reclaim this area, make it feasible. So they do a good job. They make it feasible. But shouldn't the government be asking how to control the problem? How to bring life to Tanjung Aru? Well, if they had any feelings, they would do that. So again, maybe Cynthia Ong can arrange for a briefing to the cabinet. And that's the right forum to ask this kind of question. And we will pick all those who ask relevant questions to meet the cabinet.
Thank you.
Otherwise, we are wasting time. Thank you.
Okay.
Again, on behalf of TAD, I think we are, as Muthu himself pointed out, we have been as transparent as we can be. We have put forward a lot of facts and figures. Some not so great, some better than others. But we have in our effort, and we will continue to engage the public and the stakeholders. Thank you.
Okay, with that, I will invite Cynthia to make the closing statement.
Thank you. Just a few things to close. Firstly, I think these guys over here deserve a round of applause. Particularly for Tanjung Eco Development, because they were in the hot seat and everyone, were taking out all their wrath on these poor guys over here. And of course to our colleagues from WWF and SOSKK. That was my first point. Second point, the reason we wanted to have this is because we're talking about a public space, and we think public spaces should concern the public. And we wanted to create the space for the public's voices to be heard. That's the second thing. The third thing, would you guys like more of this?
Yes. If we will benefit, definitely.
So, yes? I mean, do you want, another one in KK in a couple of months, another one somewhere else in a couple of months? We didn't know if anybody would come. We didn't know whether it was going to be 2 people or 200 people. Apparently we filled the room, so that's a good sign. And we're happy to do more if the public wants it. So,
Cynthia, if the free flow of genuine information comes from the TAED and the Cabinet, these won't be necessary. If they tell people what's happening and they can go and voice their opinions and maybe put it up for a referendum, whatever, if that happens, then these forums are not necessary.
I understand that, but we live in the reality that we live in. And I think as a civil society, we felt it was our responsibility to intervene in some way. If they were not going to create the public spaces, we will create the public spaces for this conversation to be had. I understand what you're saying, but I also feel we as civil society actors have a responsibility. We don't represent the voices of the public have their own voices. So therefore, such a forum. So, any show of hands as to should there be more of these?
Yes.
Okay, yay.
Once the QR has been finalized, that's one stage that we should have.
Okay.
When the EIA is next one, panel members cabinet.
Okay, very cool. So that's the third thing, and then the fourth thing, fourth and final. I didn't ask your permission. We should have asked your permission earlier, but we videotaped the session. We videotaped the session for our records, but also, if you guys are happy or willing, we will share the videotape with the developers as well as with the Chief Minister's Department. So, how do you guys feel about that?
If you told me, I've taken off my cap so they recognize me. You can show it to anybody you like as far as I'm
Okay, so but everybody else, how do you guys feel about that?
I think it's always okay to ask questions and not hear.
Yeah, exactly. I know, that's why we should have, we didn't say that at the front end, we should have. But to those of you who are still here,
no worries.
Any concerns?
Cynthia, I think it would be very useful to show it to people.
Yeah, we thought so too. Because, this is sincere feedback from the public and we think they should hear it. And I think, then it saves you guys the trouble of having to do a 10-page note to them.
If I could just also say here, we have set up, I think some of you may know, we have set up a Facebook page, and we've also set up a website where we'll be happy to take your questions as well. So, you could send us those and we will respond to you.
Great, thank you. And in closing, something was mentioned about a presentation on Tuesday at the Adun, and an invitation to tag, to be present, to present. I don't know how you're shaking your head.
It's not organized by us. We are making a presentation to the State Assembly and updating them on the status of the project. And that is something that has to go through the State Secretary. So I cannot comment on that. Sorry.
Yeah.
But we are prepared.
You are prepared. Okay, so Bernard, can you speak on behalf of WWF or you can't? You can't. Okay, so we can't because he has people he needs to talk to. But I think it's certainly an exciting thought, and I'd like to put it back to our political leaders, some of whom are present here. We wanted to do this for the public, and yes, of course, you can't separate politics from something like this, and therefore the political discussion. And how can you create the space so that the voices of civil society can be heard in the state assembly? Can we put that into your hands for that opening to happen? I think we would step up to that if that was the case.
I noted that you have this, which is very good. You could go to the state assembly, stand at the entrance, when the YB is coming and the government officials coming, just dish out. And the slide that Mutu was using, even the Bernard slide, you can print out your PowerPoint, do it in a nice flyer or handout, just give it out. It's very easy reading. It's very easy reading. And I'm sure the people, the YBs would, if they don't take it from you, take a picture and they will take it.
Okay, thank you. I think that's it. So we've noted your desire for more of these forums. We expect to see you there, and we'll use the same publicity mechanisms that we use to get, for all of you to be informed today. In closing, I'd like to thank Faza and Amanda for also being in the hot seat in sharing and moderating. Thank you. All right, thank you very much, everyone. Thank you for spending your Saturday afternoon here.
Yeah, sorry, just again, we are more than happy if you organize more of this to be here. All the questions, some of which we, again, like I said, political in nature, we cannot answer, but your questions with regards to the project, in terms of the details, I think the lady asked exactly where the car park is and stuff like that. We will endeavor to get you those answers, and all those answers will be posted up on our Facebook, on our websites, as best as we can. We will endeavor to give you all those answers, except for the political ones, which we cannot answer. Sorry, thank you.
I think perhaps in the future, we did invite all government departments. I think I saw maybe one or two from EPD was here. Anyone else came from government? No? So yeah, hundreds of faxes went to all government departments, including state secretary and all that. Yeah, so we tried. And I think in the future, for such forums, it might be good to have representatives from the government, so you guys don't have to take those questions that you can't answer. All right, thank you very much. I think you guys should give yourselves a round of applause. Thank you.